This book collects the first two stories of a 6-part series that, to me, is up there with the best weird fiction available today. The Lovecraftian nostalgia is obviously a big drive for me, but the author takes it to a spectacular level. I honestly can't recommend this series enough. I will give you some good basic details, spoiler-free of course, and I'll let you know why I like it so much and what elements of it are impactful. So stay tuned. Welcome to biblioCultist, where I review books that I find interesting in the topics of religion, philosophy, history, and fiction. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Doing all these things really helps me out and I appreciate it. Also, I will put my X on the bottom where you can contact me directly if you wish, and my Ko-Fi account on the side. And you can tip me there, a recurrent payment or even a single one. But anything you do shows your support and it really helps me out. Also, my merch store is there if you want to get a hat or a cup or anything you'd like. That also helps out. And I appreciate it all. In this episode, I'm going over the Titus Crow series. This particular book collects the Burrowers beneath and the transition of Titus Crow, and these stories are by Brian Lumley. This edition I have is by Tor Books, 1991. You can find these stories separated each, but I love this. They made it into a hardcover trilogy, and each one has 2 of the stories, and I like getting them that way, but you can get them however you want. Now, this series has all the great elements of Lovecraft's mythos: Cthulhu, Nyarlathotep, Azathoth, the Elder Gods, etc. So when I started reading it, my nostalgia for all things Lovecraft was obviously engaged. And this was really my main interest because I truly miss reading new Lovecraft stories, of course, something that we can't have anymore. So the ability to get like a fresh new Lovecraft story is such an awesome possibility that I always engage books like that to see if they achieve it. And usually, most authors that try to do this fail miserably. They don't seem to really understand Lovecraft, they don't seem to understand the mythos very well, or just the mood itself. Because Lovecraft, at the end of the day, was about the mood. So reading these stories made me feel good at the beginning because it felt like a good, fair representation of Lovecraftian sensibilities. So just for that, it would have been sufficiently pleasant. But slowly, Lumley took this spectacular template and began to build upon it. And what he started doing is honestly masterful. The elaboration of the bibliocentric elements of many of Lovecraft's classics, the obsession with the study of religion, esoteric books, obscure texts, something I actually share with many of these Lovecraftian characters, and has inspired me a lot actually in my love of books to begin with, starts to really grow a particular texture that, again, it remains Lovecraftian, but it grows exponentially. The author also utilizes some of the basic ideas in many of Lovecraft's works, but expands on them. The eerie feeling of strange alien forces beneath the earth, digging themselves out, looking for conquest and bringing chaos and cosmic horror, piercing the veil of our reality, etc. These are all classic Lovecraftian motifs. And again, Lumley keeps them, but beautifully adds to them in a way that is not destructive of the main feel. And to exemplify this, let me give you a short quote. "That which is alive hath known death, and that which is dead yet can never die. For in the circle of the spirit life is not, and death is not. Yea, All things live forever, though at times they sleep and are forgotten. As you can see there, it's a classic Lovecraftian quote, but it has been improved actually. And again, that's a quote of a book within the book, another classic Lovecraftian move. Without giving much away, and it's difficult because I love these stories, but it's really tough to tell you the exact details of why it's so impressively well done without kind of destroying the story itself. So all I can say is that the author awakens Cthulhu. He awakens Nyarlathotep in a very creative way. He gives massive amount of oxygen to the Lovecraftian mythos, basically. The characters remain who they are. The creatures keep their character, but at the same time, he develops them into more complex entities, into something beautiful. And that, to me, again, goes beyond just doing a Lovecraftian themed book, of being a huge fan and just writing something because you just want to keep living in that world. He allows you to live in that world, but improves upon the world. This further goes on when he adds his own version of a Lovecraftian dreamscape and generates a weirdly unique mythos. Again, by combining not only Lovecraftian monster-themed stories or his archaeological themed stories or his dark elder god cult myths, but even Lovecraftian dreamscape stories are well represented in this work. But again, with the author's own perception and his own creativity, which makes it even more enjoyable. So even though it is derivative, for sure, it is at the same time incredibly well done. The second story in this collection adds even further a combination of real-world mythos, some Greek myth. It even adds a certain type of trope that even Lovecraft wouldn't touch, although one of my favorite stories from Lovecraft has a classic witch. But this was not really common for Lovecraft, but here he is able to incorporate a lot of these things in a very coherent manner. But again, if I start giving you the twists and turns, I am spoiling the work a little bit, and I don't want to do that. By the end of these two stories, Lumley has practically run away into another dimension of myth and takes you into quite a journey because of the elements he has decided to incorporate into the story. And right at the end, where you think he just ran away with it, then he reincorporates everything all again into the comfortable Lovecraftian mood. And I'll give you another quote to exemplify the point. I have mentioned places of fantasy and places of dream, and all of them are as real and solid in their way as the ground beneath your feet. But there are dreams and there are dreams, and there are dreamers and dreamers. Your father was a great dreamer, Henry. He still is, for he is a lord of Eilegvad, where his old friend Randolph Carter is a just and honored king. That is absolutely beautiful because he has combined his own mythos with Lovecraftian mythos. It's a beautiful integration of these two worlds. So it is quite clear that the author is well versed in Lovecraftian lore. He is enamored by it, as many of us are, and he feels comfortable enough to take it to a new level. And I think that for most readers, this would have been maybe too much, because those that love Lovecraft tend to be very protective of people trying to emulate him. But the truth of the matter is that Lumley does a spectacular job at it. And I truly think that Lovecraft would have loved it himself, or at least appreciated the attempt. As a side point, this already happened during the lifetime of H.P. Lovecraft, where you had people that would write stories like the one about the Silver Key, and Lovecraft would be critical and actually help him rewrite it, etc., and actually generated one of my favorite stories of Lovecraft. But I think if he would have read this, he would have realized the genius behind it. Now, before I close the review, I do want to say something about the religious landscape here, because That's actually a topic that I always discuss: philosophy, religion. And as many of you might know, Lovecraft was a cosmicist. At least that was his apparent position in his works. A universe that is chaotic, that does have gods and alien beings, but they are completely aloof from humanity. And if they come in contact with humanity, it's in a negative fashion. They see us as insignificant creatures. And even Azathoth, which is supposed to be in the center of the universe, is an idiot god playing a flute that is dissonant. And it seems to be more like a satire of a cosmology. So even though there are elements in Lovecraft stories that seem to be very organized, at the end of the day, he's making the case that everything is chaos and destruction and ridiculousness and absurdities, and religiosity itself seems to be absurd. Although, if you read Lovecraft with a little bit more of precision, you realize that he is simply criticizing humanity's attempt to understand the most complex metaphysical things that have ever been posited. So he's basically criticizing the superficial attempt at understanding things that are beyond our comprehension. I would say it's a form of agnosticism. Lumley continues that tradition, but it's a little bit different because Lumley seems to have a more organized conception of the mythos, and therefore the feel that you get from it is more metaphysical, more religious in the positive sense. The universe makes a lot more sense, and things are happening for a reason. There's a teleology in the story, and that, to me, is indeed an improvement on Lovecraftian mythos, because Lovecraft himself said that a lot of his stories and these creatures were not meant to make a lot of sense together. They were more for the environment of the story, but not necessarily to create an organized hierarchy of beings, for example. So Lumley does a good job in improving because he seems to be a lot more focused on making sense of everything. And therefore the story is more coherent and a lot more structured. So again, two different approaches. They're both very cool. They're both different. But I wanted to point that out, that there is some philosophy and some speculation on these higher topics in these books, even though at the end of the day, they're meant for entertainment. So if you're into weird fiction, then this series is definitely for you. And I can't wait to actually finish it. And I'll make a specific playlist just for Titus Crow. So I'll go through the 6 stories, my 3 books, and put them there for you. But I really can't wait to go and continue reading because I really, really enjoyed it. And it's like a nice vacation into one of my favorite environments. I can't recommend it enough. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Doing these things really helps out and I appreciate it. Thank you for being with me. See you next time.